This is the new Clone Trooper and Battle Droids Battle Pack, and it's being called one of the best battle packs of all time. So I decided I would use two of this new best battle pack to recreate the one battle pack that started it all. Alright everybody, the building has begun, and initially it was off to a rough start. I didn't have any ideas for like 10 minutes, so I put all these pieces together because I thought it looked cool. But eventually I had the idea to recreate 2007 in 2024. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, that means I'm recreating the OG Clone Battle Pack using this newest one. And I figured the easiest place to start was with the smallest part of that original set being this turret. So I've completely rebuilt it to resemble the original 2007 one with a little bit of a modern spin on it. So now it's time to use the rest of all these pieces to see if we can make up a really big beefed up speeder, and then maybe at the end, if we have plenty of extras, we'll be able to make some separatist vehicles as well. It's day 2, and yesterday we finished up the clone build, so the goal was to use the leftover pieces to create some sort of separatist vehicle. And I did just that, but I'm not completely sold on the vehicle right now. It's a rather unique design, and I don't think the separatists would really make a speeder bike piloted by one battle droid when they could just make the speeder bike itself a droid. So this will probably end up getting torn apart so we can make something a little bit more traditional to what we've seen separatists use in universe. And as you can see, I'm also keeping at least one stab together because I really like the stab build and I feel like people won't want to tear apart both of them. But apart from that stab, I'm not 100% sold on the separatist vehicles in this alternate build, so I'm going to get back to building and see if I can come up with something a little bit better than this small speeder bike. Alright everybody, I'm making an executive decision. We're going to go ahead and take apart the stab. I've decided this is an alternate build and I'm free to take apart everything that I want to, so I'm going to go ahead and take this apart as well because I feel like the pieces could be used very well elsewhere. With the extra parts from that stab, I was able to recreate two builds that are heavily inspired by the original Droid Battle Pack, which funnily enough includes another stab. And I know the droid builds are a little bit crude, but luckily I have a small amount of leftover pieces, so I might be able to refine them just a little bit more, but otherwise, I think we're pretty much done. And really quickly before we see the final product, drop a like on this video if you want to see me recreate more classic LEGO Star Wars sets as alternate builds. Now, without further delay, brought back from the past, this is my 2007 and 2024 alternate build, made from two Clone Trooper and Battle Droid battle packs. Let's start with my favorite half of this build, the clones. And speaking of the clones, as you can see, I actually made a few custom ones. The first one I made was the Shock Trooper. I simply added Omega's arms onto him, and then I used the collar from the Spider-Man CMF, flipped downwards to be used as shoulder pauldrons. Now if you don't have the Spider-Man CMF, you can use the more easily accessible and recently released Detective from Series 25. He comes with a gray color piece that'll work just fine. It will be a little bit shorter though. And after the Shock Trooper, I moved on to my regs. All I did for them was swap their arms with the numerous Ton Wei minifigures I have from past alternate builds. That way the sand blue on the regular troopers matches the sand blue on the Shock Trooper's arms a little bit. And to accompany these custom clones, we of course have our two-seater speeder bike and our turret builds. The turret has sloped armor plating on all sides with some hinges on the front to achieve the slope and then a little bit of red for some color mixed in. With the cannon itself being a double-barrel design, it does have some iron sights on top along with a holographic heads-up display that pops up from the translucent tile. And on the inside we of course have space to fit one minifigure to accurately control and aim the cannon. And the cannon can tilt up or down to hit a few different angles, but the barrel is a little fragile with the connection being only one stud, so be careful when you're repositioning it. I recommend grabbing it by the red armor plating on either side, that way you can pose the cannon easily enough without the barrel falling off. The speeder, as mentioned, is a two-seater design just like the original one in 2007. I used these triangular clips to create this unique and sleek shaped steering vane up at the front that also houses two small blasters inside as well. Further down the speeder we get into the driver's seat, which of course has our driver and his controls to pilot the speeder. Then we have some stud shooters on either side for a little bit of extra firepower. And behind our driver and around our gunner is arguably where I took the most creative liberties when I was recreating this speeder bike in a more modern design, mainly with these massive engines. The 2007 speeder has some very small engine units that are mounted onto the sides, but I decided I wanted to go bigger and make these larger angled engine units instead. And then on the underside of these engines, I added a few translucent tiles to represent the repulsor lifts that actually keep the speeder floating off the ground. The gunner himself sits in between all these large bricks at the rear, then he uses this translucent tile and the closest slope brick as his control panel to aim these rear blasters. And the rear blasters are mounted on here just like the 2024 battle pack, so they can pose left to right, and then you can also take them out if you want to put them in your clone's hands. And lastly, tucked right next to our rear blasters, I did actually work in some small engine exhausts using those bullhorn pieces. And that covers the clone half of the builds. Now let's move on to the battle droids. And very quickly, after looking at these builds, you'll realize that the battle droids aren't exactly the star of this alternate build. It was obviously made with leftover pieces, but I'm still really happy I was able to work in both builds from that original 2007 battle pack. First is the transport speeder. Obviously a lot smaller than 2007, but it still gets the job done. It's got room for one driver plus 4 passengers. The driver can lock their hands onto the front controls, so they're pretty securely in there, but the other 4 passengers are only attached by the 2 studs on their feet, so it's a little bit fragile. But if you've ever owned LEGO Star Wars Battle Droids, this is really nothing new. And the speeder is actually well protected, with some stud shooters on either side of the main body, then these small dual light blasters just up at the front. And that pretty much covers this small transport speeder, so now let's move on to our STAP. Our very thick and bulky STAP. It's certainly got some weird proportions, but it still has everything that makes a STAP a STAP. Some armor plating right down the middle with these 2 skinny cannons right up top, and then our battle droid on the backside to control it all. And just like the driver in the transport speeder, the pilot of this STAP is going to be locked in, gripping their hands on that bar piece, so they're not going to come flying off. Now onto the last build for our separatists, this small custom combat drone. It's a rather simple build with one eye in the middle, the cannons on the top or bottom, and then the 2 massive engines that allow it to fly on either side. Then also a tiny bit of greebling detail in the back. And even though the whole idea for this video is recreating those OG battle packs, I can't help but love this little combat drone. It might honestly be my favorite droid build. And I know our droids were made with leftover pieces, and they don't exactly look perfect, but I'm still really happy that I was able to make 2 builds that were heavily inspired by both of the original battle packs. But let me know what you guys think of this alternate build down below. Do you like the clone or droid builds better? And do you think I did a good job faithfully recreating these iconic battle packs? And if you want to build all of this for yourself, I have PDF building instructions available on my Patreon page right now, with a video version coming to YouTube in a little under 2 weeks. And if you still need to buy our battle packs to create this alternate build, consider using my affiliate link in the description down below. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace, fellas.